hugely rely on everybody else telling me what to do, which is just my life in general. So yeah, if going from where I was before Gillian kindly interrupted me to remind me to record, yes, even if you don't want to come and join, then just enjoy this class, and I hope you manage to relax. I will put this video up for the public on YouTube, and I'll stick it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, so if you want to go back and do it again, if you did enjoy it, you can go back and do it again tomorrow night to relax before Christmas Day and all that kind of stuff. We've lost someone, but I'm sure they'll be back on in a bit. So yes, yin and yoga nidra. Well, it's going to be not quite a yoga nidra. It's going to be similar, but just technically not a yoga nidra. So yes, we shall get ourselves started, and it's just going to be super relaxed. We're just going to try to unwind as best as we can, and because of that, of course, that means that we won't be doing a lot. We'll be basically just resting, and we probably will come up to a seated position. That will probably be about as much as we get, but there's going to be a lot of lying down, chilling out, relaxing. I think that's pretty much the first line from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song, but there we go. Anywho, for those of you who can remember that. I was once told, take your yoga seriously, don't take yourself seriously. I kind of try not to take either too seriously if I can possibly help it. But there we go. Anyway, let's find ourselves lying down to begin with, and we will start with our breathing. As always, our breath is the most important part of any of our practice. So I've hushed you all up just so you're all quietly muted. Find yourself in the most relaxing position that you can. If you suffer with low back problems, of course, grab a bolster, a pillow, because most of you probably won't have bolsters at home. Grab a couple of cushions, stick them under your knees. That might feel nice. If you feel like you struggle to have your head comfortably resting on the floor, roll up a jumper or a towel and place it under your neck rather than your head. So don't put it under your head, just place it under like the arch of your neck, and that might just be a slightly more comfortable place and manner to do it. And then allow yourself just to lay and relax down. And to begin with, we're going to start with our palms facing up beside us. And before we really get moving, before we move into stillness, I should say, I just want you to feel why, when we come to Shavasana, when we come to any yoga nidra, any kind of relaxation pose, we have the palms facing up. So just wriggle and shuffle around, try and iron out some kinks, both in your body and your clothes. And with those palms facing up, try to notice the direction. If you were to keep turning those palms, keep turning the palms outwards, you would feel that your palms go from facing upwards to both facing away, and it feels like your shoulders get dropped down into the floor. It feels like there's this external rotation of the arms. Now, if you do it the other direction, so you let your palms come to face down, your elbows kick out to the side a bit, the shoulders feel like they kick forward and round. The chest feels like it drops a bit, and you end up in this more rounded position. And this is just somewhere that perhaps we're kind of fairly used to being. So if we can let our palms be facing up, if we can let those arms roll outwards, then you'll feel hopefully a little bit like it's trying to drop your shoulders away from your ears. And once you're here, find your breath. allow your breath to gently just roll in and out. These first few breaths of our practice, it's just where we try to surrender away from our day, our week, our month, however good, bad, ugly, indifferent any of your days, weeks, months, life might be. We try to take these moments to drop the stories, to just be a little bit more present. Whatever's going on at work, at home, leave it all behind. There was a sign on the Shala in India where I trained, and it said, "Please leave your shoes along with your mind here." So we're going to actually just explore into the mind. We're going to try to observe ourselves within the pose, within the breath, within the practice. So what do you feel with your breath? Bring your fullest, complete attention onto the back of the nose. Onto the very tip of your nose. And how does it feel? What do you feel? Where do you feel it? Left or right nostril? Does one feel easier than the other? How does your body feel against the floor? Begin to lengthen every breath. And observe how it feels within the body, how your body expands and contracts with every breath. Again, this is all going to be touched on in greater detail when we move to our yoga nidra, or actually it's going to be more of an antar practice, an inner stillness practice. Now, as it's Christmas, and we all probably feel like we could enjoy a little bit more love, just wrap your arms around your chest. So imagine you're crossing your arms and just rest them. I think we've only got women here, so just below your bra strap line, ideally. If you need to figure out how to do that, do that. And then I want you to breathe into your arms and into your hands. And I want you to try to breathe in for a count of 4 or 5 seconds. And then I want you to breathe out for 7 or 8 seconds. And then repeating that again. So again, the exhale is at 7 or 8 seconds. So it's quite a long exhale. And again, you're going to repeat 4 more times. Of course, if it gets too stressful, if you find exhaling that long for too difficult, then don't do it and drop the numbers a little bit. But you should feel like you're having to exhale a little bit more than what is a normal breath. I want you to find some inner awareness about exhaling a little bit fuller, a little bit more complete. Keep that exhale going a little bit more and a little bit more. Remember, it shouldn't be that stressful, and if it is, you're just dropping all of the numbers by 1 or 2 digits to make it more comfortable for you. But I want you just to go past your normal exhale and then breathe back in again. Try to feel that body expanding 3-dimensionally, exhaling. Just 2 more of these breaths. Feel the breath moving into your arms and your hands. Final breath. And again, so hopefully just through this act of breathing in slightly more and breathing out maybe just slightly more, you've just brought a bit more attention into your body. So let's lengthen our arms over our head. Some of you know that this is my favourite way to start a class. We're going to take both feet towards the right side of our mat, bringing just off the right edge. Then both hands move towards the right edge of the mat as well. So we create this gentle C shape, this little banana shape. And we breathe into this left side of the body, lengthening in and lengthening out. If you find that your left foot keeps wanting to ride back towards the midline, you could hook your left foot on top of your right ankle. You could hold your right wrist with your left hand, holding that shape. 2 minutes in this pose, Bananasana, banana pose. Go to a space in which you feel comfortable. You feel a sensation down your left side. Yet you're able to still breathe as deeply and fully as you did a moment ago. You're able to soften and surrender. And really just let the shoulders and your eyes and your jaw just let go. And so our first principle of practice is find your edge, this place where you feel something, but are able to sit for prolonged periods. You're able to lay for the full 2 minutes without thinking, oh my word, I need to get out of this pose. If within 3 breaths you think, oh God, I've still got over a minute and a half to go, then obviously you've gone too deep. This is about feeling some stress physically, but mentally being able to soften and surrender. And then slowly take those arms all the way towards the left side of your mat. Take your feet over to the right side of the mat, and once more softly settle into that banana shaped pose. Observe which part of your torso you feel the most stretch within. Is it around your shoulder and armpit? Is it around your kind of lower ribs, or is it around your hip and pelvis? Remember, we're just trying to observe what's going on within our body at any time. And while doing so, we're just feeling into the breath in exactly the same way as we did during our breath work at the beginning. So again, we're feeling a stress without it being too stressful. Think Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Shouldn't be too much. It'll be too much stress, we won't be able to hold it. Shouldn't be too little. We want to feel something. We're not going for a restorative practice. We want the perfect amount where we feel something, we can breathe into it, we can feel our body surrender around it. Our second principle then becomes to hold that shape, that edge that you found with stillness. The more you fidget, the more the mind will fidget. The more you fidget, the more you keep firing the muscles up and don't let the softer tissues go. You don't move into the denser connective tissues. Just 3 more slow breaths. Hopefully you're still, even without counting, aiming for something around a 10-second breath. So if you're continuing the breath pattern you had at the beginning, that's 10 to 12 seconds. And then slowly let's bring those arms and shoulders back to the center. Let's bring those feet back to the center. Bend those knees up nice and slowly. And all we're going to just start by doing is not having them too close to your bum. Have them fairly far away from your bum. And then let them windscreen wiper left and right. Again, perhaps if your hips are anything like mine, observe them click and crack. And then as you come back to the midline, take those feet long out in front. Bring your hands down beside you. Roll your way up onto your bum and your legs and find your legs directly out in front. I'm going to grab a pillow just for demonstrations. If you find sitting on your bum difficult, because some people will find they sit on their bum and they'll be back here. For that, you either need to bend the knees or you need to grab a cushion or a pillow and stick it under your bum so that you end up rolling forward. One of those two options. The other option would be just to, bearing in mind we're trying to relax, just bend the knees a little bit, put a pillow under them, and then we're going to imagine we're trying to put our nose towards our navel, our forehead to our thighs. So it's not a forward fold to try to get your head to your toes, okay? So relax your way down slightly longer. 4 minutes in this forward fold. So if you folded forward and you've suddenly thought, fudge, 4 minutes, you know, so try not to swear then. I think I've gone too deep. If that's what you've done, back off, reset. As we said, this second tattva, this second principle of our practice is stillness. If you are fighting the entire 4 minutes against how strong you've made it, your mind will never find stillness, and you'll be constantly holding yourself, tensing yourself. So whilst our little second tattva is to hold in stillness, our sub-category of this tattva, this principle, is to never be too rigid. If you find that you've gone too deep, you back off, you readjust, you resettle. If you also find that your body just goes and a layer of today's rubbish just dissolves away, then perhaps you can readjust and re-find your edge. All of which leads us into our third principle of time. 3 incredibly simple principles, yet remarkably not very easy to manage. Our egos want to get in the way. Those thoughts that we're better than we are, that last week was easy and I managed to touch my head to the floor in front of my feet, or whatever it might have been. Any thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations around your perceived expectations of the pose need to be left behind. So you just have yourself becoming that I, becoming that third person watcher that we briefly mentioned that we're going to explore more in our mouna. So as we sit here for the final minute 15 and we relax, try to notice how you can watch yourself as if a third person, as if from the outside. You can watch yourself inhale and exhale. You can observe the thoughts that race and run through your head. You can observe and notice your bum, your thighs, your feet, just sinking heavier and heavier down, down, down into the floor. And as that 4 minutes is up, we slowly, and I mean slowly, just slide our torso back so that it's on top of our hips. And then our head is the last part to roll up. Let the chest begin to lift. Let the head and skull begin to lift. And then just make sure you take your time. If you were right forward and your head was heavy, that might give you a little bit of a head rush. From there, we're straight into pose number 3, which is our straddle. Now remember, you don't have to be a cheerleader to straddle. You're not looking for 180 degrees, although perhaps you can do 180 and you want to. If you do, knock yourself out, but perhaps ask yourself why. From there, we're going to fold our way forward. And again, many of you know I hate this pose. So rather than pancaking yourself, if you can pancake yourself, knock yourself out, but remember, you're trying to feel yourself kind of surrender into perhaps kind of putting some bolsters under the knees and taking a slightly different approach might be a nice thing to do. Of course, if you are a pancake flatter, then you might need to put some pillows under your feet to make them higher and then fold forward. That is not me. So if this is a difficult one, you can bend your knees right up. Perhaps crack your feet while you do it. Don't do that. That's not sitting in silence and stillness. Perhaps you put pillows under your knees. Perhaps if you've got one bad knee, one bad hip, one good hip, you just don't take it quite so wide, so you don't take the angle as long. And we're going again, 4 minutes. And again, if you're lucky enough to have bolsters or pillows, perhaps you grab them and you can stick your head on it. Perhaps that feels weird and you don't like it. In which case, get rid of it. I'm personally a fan of having the knees a little bent, but again, it is not my practice, it is yours. So take the first kind of 30 seconds just to observe whether or not the pose, the edge, the place you've found is actually really where you want to be. And perhaps it's just for tonight, it's not here you want to be. Normally you'd love it. But find yourself asking, observing, trying to find yourself to be that third person. Are you breathing soft and slow again? And so we're just sitting, observing the thoughts as they rise and fall. Perhaps just allowing that chitta kasha that we've discussed in the last few weeks. For those of you who haven't been here, the chitta kasha is essentially almost like the room within our skull. When we just look between our third eye, between the space between our eyebrows, with our eyes closed, that's like the front wall. It's like a projector screen where we can watch our thoughts and feelings, our emotions, the sensations that arise within us play out. A little bit like Mickey Mouse in Fantasia. You can just watch the colours, the thoughts, the feelings just play out against that black backdrop. So again, we're very slowly, in the same way that we did for our seated forward fold, for that Paschimottanasana, that snail, maybe? We're going to roll our way back so our sit bones touch, and we're going to roll our rib cage up, the head being the very last bit to come up. Deliberately moving slowly out of these poses. And then we're going to find our legs come together, and we're going to sweep them around, and we're going to find our way round on towards our belly. So in your own time again, make your way down. And you have many an option here. And again, with your legs, what feels good to you? Traditionally in more yang practices, obviously, we end up keeping legs pretty close together, but that might feel horrible for you. So perhaps spreading your legs might feel good, perhaps it might not. I personally find them much more comfortable taking them outside the line of my pelvis, but again, up to you. If you're here and you're already thinking, holy molasses, my back doesn't like this, you take the arms further forward. Abby is flat out. That's what I like to, she's like, yeah, I'm done here. I'm going to sleep. So perhaps you're here. Perhaps you're not. Perhaps you end up coming to elbows. Perhaps you could come onto elbows and support your head. We've done a lot of forward folding with the head hanging. Perhaps by now, your head feels like it weighs a ton. If so, support it. If it doesn't and you like it lolling forward, let it loll forward. Eventually, I'm going to give you a nod at 1.5 minutes, only if you like it. And remember, I'm not going to do it, so I'm just going to show you what to do now. If you want to do it, you can explore seal, which will be a straight-armed variation. If when you come to this, you notice you are squeezing bum cheeks, your low back is kind of fighting you, it's not really what we're after. We want to be able to relax. So perhaps instead you end up coming back. You can explore it by all means. But just allow this gentle curve through the spine. And remember that, again, for those of you who maybe practice a lot, maybe don't, certainly in the more traditional vinyasa style, we'll be told that compression is a bad thing. Compression being where like bones push together. If you're doing it repeatedly, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, yes, potentially not great, but it's a lovely way to push some stress into some bones. Bones get stronger by stressing in the same way that muscles get stronger by stressing. Lifting weights is stressing muscles, we're getting them stronger. Bones get stronger by compressing into them and by doing other bits, but compression is one way that we can strengthen them. So as long as it's not painful, allow yourself to sit. For those of you who want to get bendy, remember this isn't about being bendy, it's about stressing rather than stretching. You could place your hands, push up into seal. Totally up to you. If you're here to relax, then perhaps you just think, no thank you. But the breath is still calm and quiet, soft and steady. For those who are pushing up, perhaps you can now try to surrender into your low back. Try and let your hips be heavy. Try to make sure your bum cheeks aren't completely clenched up. They probably will switch on a little bit because the front of the hip is trying to open, which will mean the back gets shorter. Try and just surrender around it. You've got 15 seconds left. And so wherever you are, just let yourself drop down. make a little pillow of your hands, and you're going to slide one leg, whichever leg you want, up beside you, so your inner thigh is on the ground. So this should just release your back a little bit. Should make things a little bit more comfortable. Obviously, if you've got bad hips, don't use the bad hip. And this is our final little pose. We're going to do 90 seconds on each side of half, whatever this is, half frog. And again, if you want to, why not lift up onto your elbows? So then you have like a half sphinx and a half frog. And again, perhaps that feels lovely, perhaps it feels hideous, perhaps you just want to lay on your face, in which case just lay on your face. And for those of you who enjoyed your seal, if you wanted to, you could go half seal, half frog. And again, that's just more stress, so perhaps you don't and you just want to end up on your belly, on your face. Just softening, surrendering, feeling your breath. And perhaps wherever you are, if you're on your chest, you can actually feel your breath expand through your ribs into the floor. You can feel that the bottom area of where your bra strap would be expanding down and out into the floor. Perhaps that means actually the back of your body also expands. For those of you up in Sphinx/seal, perhaps you can feel with the back body closed off, it pushes the breath into the front of the body even more. And wherever you are, we surrender our way back down towards the ground. Again, take your time, just take that left foot or whichever leg you chose to use back behind you. And all I want you to do is just gently rock your pelvis from the left to the right. Imagine you're massaging the very front of your pelvis around your pubis. Just let the legs loll left and right. Imagine your heels knocking in and out. And just feel that you move to stillness for a moment now. And observe the difference left and right. And then we slide the opposite leg up and out. And again, any bad hips which don't like adducting to this angle, you can just take that leg into more of a straddle pose. Like we did when we were sitting up, you can just take it wider. And then, I've got a bloody something in the way here. There we go. So you can just take it out, and that might be enough, especially if you just lift up. If not, bring it out to that 90-degree angle. Find your place, 90 seconds. We soften, we breathe, we relax, and we surrender. If at any point your body says, "Can I have some more, please?" You can come up to the elbows, you can come up to your hands. If you really wanted to get super jazzy, not that we did it on the other side, you could bend your straight leg, heel to bum. And then you could be up here, and then we're working a whole bunch more. Turn around like that. Again, we didn't do it on the other side. Perhaps that's something you can explore. Perhaps if you're lifting up into your seal as well, that will give you quite the pull down your front of your back leg. Options galore. But as always, the most important thing is, can you still breathe? Obviously you can. That's a given, but can you breathe effectively, effortlessly, fully, mindfully and consciously into the whole of your ribs. As you take your final breath, again, if you're up on your hands, arms, surrender your body down. If you're already down, stay there and just take that leg back behind you. And again, knock your feet left to right. Super simple, super relaxed. Just let the legs, let your thigh bone roll inside your hip socket. And notice how it can rock your pelvis left and right. And then in your own time, we're just going to roll our way over on towards our backs. Take a moment to pandiculate yourself around. For those of you who don't know what that big word means, it just means, imagine you've just woken up and you're going to take a big morning yawning stretching feeling. If you wanted to take that as a bit of a cat-cow, as a bit of a happy baby, as a child's pose, whatever might work for you, I just want you to feel as if you're going to iron out any kinks and creases that might be in your body. Perhaps that's a little windscreen wiper of the knees. And then you're going to find your way into your Shavasana, into your place of stillness. And as I say, we're going to be practicing this idea of mouna, which in Sanskrit translates as inner silence. So it's slightly different to a yoga nidra, but the outcome will be a similar thing. We had practiced this a few weeks ago. This leads us into a place of pratyahara, which is the fifth of that 8 limbs of yoga. For those of you who might have anything to do with that, we have this idea of kind of 10 commandments as our first 2 limbs. Our asana, the movement, the pranayama, the breath, moving through to pratyahara, this idea of removal of senses, allowing us to prepare for our meditation, for that stilling of our body and our breath and our mind together. And as we find that stillness, as we find ourselves lying down, begin to become aware of your body on the floor. Feeling the eyes closed, keeping them closed throughout. The spine finding itself long. The body finding itself still. Say to yourself, I am prepared for inner silence. As we move into the first stage, and having awareness of external sensual experiences, different sounds, sensations. Concentrate on all of the sounds around you. All of the sensations of skin on clothes, on the floor. And don't allow them to be disturbances in your concentration. So concentrating on all of the external stimulus with total awareness. Not fighting the senses. Do not struggle with your sense expressions and sense experiences. But become aware and become that observer of them both. You should become aware. Also awaken the awareness that I am aware, I'm hearing, I'm aware that I'm hearing these very words. In this way, the mind and the senses become trained to become undisturbed by the sensual experiences. Neither the sound, nor the taste, nor the touch, or anything else should disturb you. Observe the fact that you hear the outer sounds, or you experience different sensations within the physical body. Itching, laziness, scratching, twitching, and not being disturbed by them. This is pratyahara. In the Gita, in that rather large yoga text, there's a line which says, even as the tortoise withdraws its body from the framework of its shell, within the framework of its shell, in the same manner the senses should be withdrawn. Not by force, but by this gentle observation, awareness. The senses should be withdrawn from the respective objects of the senses. The senses should be calmed down by the attitude of I'm witnessing the experience of hearing, and I'm aware of the sound. I is the third thing in this process. The first being the ears. The second being the object. Whatever sound we hear. The music, the birds, my voice. The third is the eye. The spectator. The witness of this process of sensual experience. And this is our first stage, our first practice of antar, developing this deep awareness this threefold awareness of subject, object, and spectator. The experiencer, the object of the experience, and the seer of both. The subject, the ears, the object, the sound, the eyes and the form it sees, the skin and the touch it feels, the tongue and the taste it tastes, the nose and the smell it smells. Witnessing, observing without any disturbance. And this is the introversion of our sense experience. This is antar. This should be done at any time, not at all hating our outer experiences, but looking at them. This idea of drastabhava, the idea, the attitude of a witness. Again, that idea of simplicity, but not with ease. You may find just a few moments where you find this atmosphere, this awareness of calm, of tranquility and peace. And this is the stage, this is the feeling, the awareness, the space we are trying to cultivate. This prepare us for our meditation. Reminding ourselves there will be times when there is noise, there is disturbances. The body will not be ready, but we practice to develop this calm, acute awareness of inner silence. Antar. Taking just 3 more slow breaths, 3 more full, complete breaths. Feeling those lungs, observing and witnessing those lungs as that third person perspective. And then, again, in your own time, whenever you are ready, allow those fingers, those toes, those wrists and those ankles to gently begin to come back to life. Keep the eyes closed as you do, observing the room around you as your life begins to return to your body. Observing the walls, the ceiling, the floor beneath you. Allowing those knees to gently roll up in towards your chest. And in your own time, we're just going to rock over towards our left side, creating that little fetal shape, that space in which we grew ourselves once. We self-assembled ourselves. That shape of introspection, of safety. In our own time, we're going to make our way up to a nice, comfortable seated position. And again, it is your own time. Don't rush. Allow yourself to sit tall. Your eyes to remain closed, your shoulders to soften and surrender down. As we bring our hands up towards our third eyes, as we remind ourselves to have clear and loving thoughts for ourselves, our friends, our families, or anyone else that we may come across in our day-to-day lives, especially around this time, obviously at Christmas. As we bring our hands down towards our mouths, as we remind ourselves to have clear and loving communication, again with ourselves, our friends, our families, or anyone else that we may come across. And finally, hands to our heart center, thumbs into the chest wall. So we remind ourselves to have clear and loving and honest intentions for whatever it is we plan for the rest of this month and this year, moving into the next year. Trying to set ourselves a nice realistic place we would like to aim for. Surrendering forward, down over the legs. Lakha samasta sukhna bhavantu. May your beings be happy and free. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me. Thanks, folks.